Hello class, Mr. Martin here. We're continuing our discussion of the age of exploration, and we're going to begin with Portugal leading the way. Ask yourself this: why did Portugal take the lead in exploration? Why not Italy? That was the home of the Renaissance, and the home of trade, I might add, during the Renaissance. Why Portugal? Well, the answer quite simply is Portugal had a huge natural resource. It had the Atlantic Ocean. When the Portuguese and the Spanish were getting resources, they had to travel through Italy first and then the Middle East, or Middle East and then Italy. And they didn't like the fact that there was kind of like this middleman right here who was inflating the prices of the goods arriving in Spain and Portugal. So Portugal and Spain said, well, we're going to cut the middleman out and we're going to sail around and do it ourselves. So Portugal will lead the way in exploration, and it will be led by this guy here, nifty guy named Henry the Navigator. All right, Henry the Navigator was the son of a king. He was not a sailor or an explorer, but he did finance several journeys of discovery along the way. All right, and what's notable about Henry is that he brought together map makers, mathematicians, astronomers, all to study navigation, and he will sponsor voyages of discovery across the Atlantic Ocean. All right. Two voyages that are of particular importance. Number one is Bartholomew Diaz. In 1487, Bartholomew Diaz leaves Portugal, and he basically hugs the coast of Africa, and he reaches the tip of Africa, and he calls it the Cape of Good Hope. And he proves for the first time that it is possible to sail southward in hopes of reaching India. He does not go to India, however. That voyage is settled for Vasco da Gama, who in 1497, 5 years after Columbus's voyage, sails all the way to the Cape of Good Hope and beyond. It takes him 10 months to reach India, but when Vasco da Gama returns back to Portugal, he is an instantaneous celebrity. He's a smash. He's easily recognizable, and he's celebrated for his accomplishment. And that kind of fits into the idea of glory, the glory of exploration. All right. Spain very quickly takes hold in the age of exploration. Two Spanish explorers. One is Christopher Columbus in 1492. We know him for his famous voyage westward. And then another, 1519 to 1521, one of my favorite explorers is a guy named Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan led an expedition around the world, and he wanted to find a water route to the Indies through North America once it was discovered. However, Magellan did not live to see his voyage return. Magellan was killed by Philippine natives, and he was eaten. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine natives that he encountered were cannibal, and he was killed, and he was eaten for dinner. He did not make it back to Europe. However, his crew and ship did return back to Europe, and to this day he is still credited for being the first person to completely circumnavigate or go around the world. All right, that takes us to Spain. So Spain is going to very quickly modernize and keep up with this age of exploration. Okay, we know that in 1492 Columbus sets out to travel west. He believes he's traveling 2,200 miles to India. He will sail for 29 days with no end in sight, and the crew is getting ready to mutiny or throw the captain overboard. But what happens is 2 to 3 days after that alleged mutiny, the Spaniards find land. They discover land, and Columbus becomes the first European ever to set foot in the Americas. Now, take a look. If you look at this blue map, this is a map of America as it is, North America, South America. The brown map, the overlay, is Columbus's map. So Columbus thought he was somewhere here in these islands of the West Indies, okay, using modern navigation that would have put him somewhere in the Pacific Ocean on the other side of North America. However, he was much, much closer to Europe than he thought. He was down in the Caribbean Sea. Most likely he landed in Cuba, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, kind of in that area. All right, and you can see his route leaving from Spain through the Canary Islands, across the Atlantic, down to the Bahamas, Cuba, Santo Domingo, and then back up through the Azores, and then back to Spain and Portugal. Okay, and this map just provides you with the overlays of the explorers, da Gama and Diaz sailing around Africa, and then Columbus's overseas voyage. Columbus ended up making several voyages to the New World. He calls the islanders Indians because obviously he thought he was in India. And he spends 3 months there exploring the different islands and meeting the different natives. And his search there is for gold. So there you have the two G's. You have Columbus looking for gold and obtaining glory. And then he becomes a national hero when he returns to Spain. He dies in 1506, but he dies in 1506 without realizing he had in fact discovered a new world. And this is a map just showing you all the different overseas routes. And you can see here is the voyage of Magellan in 1519, going around across the Pacific. Magellan is killed here in the Philippines, and his crew sails across the Indian Ocean and returns back to Europe safely. We're also going to take a look at America's Best Salesman, a guy by the name of Amerigo Vespucci. Okay, Vespucci was an explorer and a cartographer. Okay, and when Columbus returns with these new plants and animals, he begins to observe the differences, and he notices that there's a big difference between the plant life in India and the plant life that Columbus is bringing back. So he says something's not right here. So he begins to make some critical observations, and then finally in 1507, a year after Columbus dies, he makes the claim that in fact Columbus discovered a new world. And his writings were very profound, and they were very graphic and very lurid, and they attracted many new Europeans to kind of incentivize them to come to the New World, which is why North and South America have their names, named after Amerigo Vespucci. Okay. Other explorers, okay, England, the British were the first to send a permanent colony to the Americas, and that's where we have, obviously, the Plymouth Bay colony in Massachusetts, Jamestown in Virginia, the lost colony of Roanoke. So the British settle pretty much in the central part of North America. Okay. John Cabot explored what's now Canada, and a guy by the name of Henry Hudson was looking for the Northwest Passage, and he could not find it. But they named the Hudson Bay after him, the Hudson River, and other tidal estuaries. Other explorers included the French. They show up late to the party, but nevertheless, they send Jacques Cartier to explore the St. Lawrence River, while another guy, Samuel de Champlain, establishes a permanent settlement in Canada. So very interesting. Within the next 200 years, again, we're still in that time period of Renaissance. The French, the British all jump in on this bandwagon of exploration and begin to colonize the New World. All right. And in the next segment, Mr. Walter and I will talk about the social structure of the New World and how the Europeans really dominated the Indian life and the Indian culture, and that culture was lost as a result of European exploration. If you feel that I went too fast or you need to go back over any of these notes, feel free, watch the video clip again, and post any questions you have for me on Edmodo.